Welcome, readers, to the next episode of the Bougie Book Pod, where we get together and summarize, analyze, deep dive, probably overanalyze, and just gab about our most recent favorite reads.
Which this week we did Lisa Jewell, None of This is True, which I read this summer, so I'm going to be the fuzzy one here. I've tried to refresh, but it's still, there's so much that happens. I'm going to be the fuzzier one, where Tara read it more recently, so.
Yes, I read it over Christmas break, so it is more in my head. However, I did start 2 books immediately after, so I think I'm in a good place. I think I remember everything.
Yes.
I think we're good to go.
So we'll say there's going to have to be spoilers on this one. There's too many plot twists, too many things.
Yeah.
There will be spoilers. I'm going to start off the summary, and pretty much I won't spoil too much in my summary. It's going to be when Tara takes over at the end. Things are going to get a little off.
So if you don't want the spoilers, just don't listen to me and just turn it off and come back later. That's fine.
Listen to the beginning, and if it intrigues you, take it from there.
Yes, please.
All right. So in this one, we have really one main character named Josie, and she and her husband Walter go out to dinner for her 45th birthday. And when they're at this pub, I believe, she spots this other woman celebrating her 45th birthday with friends and family, and they're just having, conversation, and they're having fun. And of course, Josie notices that right away. So Josie, being Josie, who she is, she purposely runs into this other woman named Alex in the women's restroom and just goes, "Oh my gosh, we're birthday twins." And so she kind of explains to Alex, we're the same age. I noticed your birthday, that type of thing. Josie, after that, realizes this woman is this podcaster and very well known and very present on social media.
And what I loved about the beginning, because I don't want to say my age, but I'm in my 40s, and they're celebrating their 45th birthday, like you said. And automatically, I think I felt bad for Josie at this point, because she's sitting there with her much older husband. I think they say that he is 42. No, I'm sorry. She's 42. No, he was 42 when she met him at 15. So he's like 27 years older than her. Yeah. But she's kind of looking at him, and he's looking like a super old man at this point. And I think she's feeling like they both look pretty dowdy and like simple and not really excited to be there. And she turns around and she sees another 45-year-old woman who's looking fresh and beautiful. And she has all these people with her and a handsome husband. And I think immediately she was just like that dichotomy of how 2 different lives. And I think she's feeling a little jealous.
Yeah.
And I think I was feeling jealous too, like just hearing the description of this woman, Alex. And, but yeah, I thought that was a really strong beginning.
I think readers can relate to Josie in the beginning. And I think that's what pulls you in.
Yeah.
Because then you slowly not. You're like, no, I want nothing to do with her.
Then you're like, oh, I'm Team Alex.
We actually have nothing in common. But so once she, of course, once again, Josie being Josie, which you'll learn, she goes into this deep dive. She's listening to all of Alex's podcasts. She's doing all the research on social media. She's taking it to the steps that, all women take when you're researching your friend's ex or, things like that. And so she purposely runs into Alex again at her kids' school, Alex's children's school. And she brings up this grand idea to Alex, like, hey, you should have me on the podcast and we can do a birthday twin thing. Like, I think I would be really great for your podcast. And this is where the book should have ended. Boop, nope, done. But no, Alex decides, sure, why not? We'll do a trial. Why not?
Yeah, and as the reader, you can sense Alex's hesitation and her like, oh, this is weird. I don't even know you. And you're kind of like, just walk away, girl. Just walk away. But she's also at a point in her life where she's wrapping up a series of podcasts that she was doing. I think things at home with her husband aren't on like the best terms, and she's just looking for something new. So she's thinking, well, maybe this is a sign. This is a sign for me to pivot. And so she
saw it as a sign, not a red flag, but
exactly.
to each their own. So of course, Alex's recording studio is at her house in the garden in the back. So she has Josie over and they start recording. Josie's already intrigued by Alex's life, but becomes even more intrigued when she enters the house and wants to take little knickknacks and wants to crawl into Alex's life a little bit more. And she starts to get disappointed. She starts to get really disappointed in Alex's life. It's not the highlight reel she sees on her social media. We learn that Alex's husband, Nathan, goes on benders. No one knows where he is. He doesn't come home that night. He's just off doing his own thing.
And it's clear that he is kind of the breadwinner of the family. He makes really good money. I forget what he does. I think it's something with real estate. And so, on the outside, it looks like they have like this really glamorous, wonderful, happy life, which is interesting because I know None of This Is True really alludes to what's happening with these characters. But I think it's also a message about how what we see online, none of that is true either. I mean, she had this picture in her head. I wrote down, like, at first it started off with like jealousy, maybe a little bit of obsession with her taking the knickknacks and like wanting to kind of worm her way in. But then when she sees some of the not so pretty things in Alex's life, she's disappointed, like you said. And I think it's almost like an awakening that she's having, and she's wanting to take some part of Alex's life that she wished even Alex was doing and is not. So it's really interesting. So None of This Is True kind of is the perfect phrase for so many different aspects of this book, which I thought was really cool.
And this is when the podcasts are still doing it. So Josie starts opening up with her story. And this is when you're starting to think, clearly there's some traumatic things here. So we learn that Josie's mother was a narcissist. And through Josie's eyes, she tells the story of growing up with her. We then learn how she met her husband, Walter. She met him when she was 13. Keep in mind, he's 27 years older. And basically leads you to believe that Walter groomed her. So there's that. And Alex is starting to be like, oh my God, this is a lot. We've got things like she opens up to Alex just about her daughters, and she has 2 daughters with Walter, and how she's always lived with Walter since she was 18, and her life has been so controlled, and she hasn't had this independence, and her daughters didn't have this independence and everything. And so, like most people, Alex wants to continue listening because it's intriguing.
Yeah, and she's a journalist.
Yeah.
So she's wondering she's getting the story. It's not the story she thought it was going to be, but she knows there's a story there. So there's like, she's uncomfortable about it, but it's also, tell me more.
Yeah. So then, once again, Josie being Josie, finds a way to get her husband and herself over to their house for dinner. And she is so nitpicky on what Walter wears that night. She's so particular.
Yeah, I remember feeling bad for him at that point.
Me as well.
So I'm still skeeved out about the age difference and that he's 27 years older when he meets her at 13, and that the story that she tells, it's skeevy. But at this point, and she's like, you got your hair cut like that, and what clothes are you wearing? And we're trying to make a good, I just felt so bad for him. And he seemed so reserved and okay, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, how is this the guy that groomed her when she's so...
Yeah. Exactly. So and this is interesting because at this dinner, Walter hints to Alex that Josie may not be telling the true story.
Yeah.
Watch out for Josie's story, essentially.
Yeah.
Of course, in a cryptic, not explicit way. So then at dinner, Josie and Walter get into this argument. They leave. And next thing you know, Josie arrives at Alex's doorstep covered in bruises.
Yes.
And manages to weasel her way into shelter. And oh my gosh, Walter is abusing me. And can I stay here? And I don't remember how much time passed, but I was so uncomfortable at that point.
Yeah.
Too much time. She was in that guest bedroom, hunkered down, was not leaving. So this is where Tara's going to take over. So if you're intrigued by that and you don't know what's happening, the plot twist quite yet, and you want to read it, this is where you might want to stop.
Press pause, come back in a few days because it's not going to take you long to read it. One thing I loved about the way Lisa Jewell writes is all the chapters are like 3, maybe 4 pages.
Yeah.
And it goes back and forth where you eat through it really quickly. But going back to that dinner, it was supposed to be the 4 of them. And Alex's husband, Nathan, surprise, surprise, doesn't show up. Apparently on another bender or whatever. And Josie takes that as, oh my gosh, she runs with it. And oh my God, how can you put up with that? I'm so mad for you. And it was like, not the way a friend would be like, I'm really sorry. It was making Alex feel even worse.
It was weird.
It was uncomfortable. I mean, the whole time, every time Josie speaks to Alex at this point now, you have that secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like, how can you talk like that? So Josie was really rising or using that as an excuse of why Walter was not having a good time. And then when she comes back and basically says that's the reason he started to beat her up and they had this fight because he was so mad that they went to the dinner and the husband wasn't there and he looked so stupid. I mean, it was crazy. And so Alex is like, well, let's call the police. And she, no, we don't need to do that. And then it was like, well, what about your daughter? She left. She went to a friend's house. Meanwhile, it's like 2 a.m. And Alex is just thinking, you're okay with your daughter being out there 2, 3 a.m? You don't know where she's going. I mean, the story just doesn't make sense. But Alex is so deep into this now. And she's also thinking, well, I've recorded so much for this podcast. I know there's something here. I just got to see it through. But I think she's also the type of person who has a hard time saying no to people.
Yeah.
So she said, yeah, of course you can stay the night. And then the night becomes a week. I think she was there a full week.
At least. It's like the kids are going to school at this point. Like the routine's back in place.
Yeah. And then the husband eventually does come home and he does not like that she's there. And she even has like I think a confrontation with him in the kitchen one morning about how like he should be ashamed of himself. And he's just like, who are you?
Yeah. Who are you in my house?
Like, telling me this. And then the only way Alex gets her to leave is she's like, I even have it on the calendar that her sister is coming to visit. And she's like, well, we're not going to have space here. And, I'm so sorry, but you're going to have to find some other arrangements. And so when Alex is out and about, Josie just goes wandering in the house and sees that there's like another place that she could sleep. I mean, it's bananas.
Absurd. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable. Like, you think about the idea of like, you can't, you see those interactions and you, like you said, it's that secondhand embarrassment. You're like, oh my God, please make it stop. Please. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. Read your room.
What are you doing in someone's house for a week?
Yeah. And like Alex gave her pajamas or something to wear because she didn't have any clothes, figuring that once we wash your clothes, you'll put them back on. And she never puts her clothes back on. She just wears Alex's sundress or something. It was so weird and uncomfortable. I'm trying to remember now. So at a certain point, they go back into the podcast room and she tells more of her story. And this is where, it gets cuckoo. And that's where, I wrote notes as I was reading just because my mind was just constantly going back and forth of like, what's real, what's not real, who do I trust, who would I believe? And she tells more information about her husband and basically that he groomed her and that it almost felt like she was trying to say she just wanted to get away from her mom. But then you learn that he had a wife prior and he left the wife for this little girl, basically. It seems very strange. But then she goes into the story about how like things were fine for a while when the kids were little, but Walter was very controlling. But then I think as they reached 13, the teenage years, she said that he started molesting them.
Yes. And
at that point, Alex is like, I'm sorry, what? And
then it even brings in a daughter's friend.
Yes.
There's this factor of this daughter's friend brought in, which this daughter, the older daughter, does not live at home.
No, she ran away. So we're never sure if she ran away. It feels like that in the beginning because every time she's like out having coffee, she's like looking around. She's always looking for her. There's certain points where she's Googling her name, like trying to see if something comes up.
So she's just painting this picture of Walter like he's a pedophile. He did this to our children. He did this to me. This insane picture of him.
Yeah. But
also that there's no support from her mom and all of this stuff and that she is on this on her own. And honestly, the whole time you're you're kind of one, like the daughter thing to me was very interesting.
The daughter thing is that's what had me very confused, because in the beginning, before even going to Alex's house, there's like little breadcrumbs of information about the daughters. Like there's one daughter living at the house, Erin.
Yeah,
Erin,
you never see her.
Never see her. She's always locked in her bedroom, and there's moments where Josie, go up to the door, but she says it smells in there. She's like, oh, I have to get in there eventually and clean. And I'm thinking, what is in? Is it because she doesn't leave? She doesn't shower? But then she talks about how she makes her baby food because she only eats like liquid food.
I was starting to think she was in like a vegetative state.
Honestly?
Or like a dead body. I don't know.
I thought that she was dead and like they just left her there and she was maybe gone crazy and still like putting food out for her.
Some little Bates like.
Yes, I thought it was some. I started to wonder if it was something crazy like that. But then like she'd put the baby food jars out and then like she'd come back and they were empty. So I don't know. I'm like, maybe the husband's doing that to make her feel better. I'm like, this house is crazy.
And then to go back to the husband like molesting them when they're younger.
Yeah.
She makes the comment that in present time, he leaves the bed at certain points in the night to go to the daughter's bedroom and then comes back. And you're just like, and you're sleeping right there? Like,
yeah, and you don't stop it. And she's like, well, I was happy that he wasn't next to me. And I'm like, but your kid. I mean, yeah, it's just, again, none of this is true. I kept thinking, okay, none of this is true. So what is true?
Yeah.
And so, she brings up a story about the oldest daughter. I think her name is Roxy. And she has a friend. I forget their friend's name. Brooke. Okay. And they were like BFFs. And at some point they had a falling out. And the mother didn't understand why they had this falling out.
It was like the day of a dance.
Yeah, like a prom or something like that. And Josie claimed to Alex on the podcast that her daughter revealed to her that she said, I'm really sorry, but I'm sleeping with your dad. And that's when Roxy like blew up and like, absolutely not. And da, 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 da.
And this is also like the start of Roxy running away.
Yeah. And so
Roxy like triggered everything.
Yeah. Like they have a big falling out and a big fight. And so she runs away. But then she doesn't mention, and Alex finds out on her own through her own little digging, that this girl, Brooke, disappeared that night of her prom.
Missing, never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again. And then as they did a little more digging, I think they learned that she actually went to their house the night that she went missing. I mean, it was all these crazy things happening. So Alex is kind of sitting there like, got this crazy lady in my house.
Yep.
She's seen my kids.
Enough red flags at this point for Alex, dear Lord.
But I think now she's in so deep.
Yeah.
How do you get out without triggering something and keeping yourself safe?
Especially thinking that you are what you're dealing with and who that person is. You have the children. She's been in your house. She stayed in your house for a week. She knows their schedule. She knows where they go to school. Like,
exactly.
Everything.
Who knows what she's put in motion while in your house?
Yeah.
So she's in a tough spot. And again, though, she's also thinking this is good material, but she's scared. And at some point, Josie has it in her mind, I'm not leaving. I know there's more space for me, even if the sisters are here. But I forget exactly what it is that happens. But she has this moment of, oh, I know what I'm going to do. And she's okay. And she tells her, I'm going to leave. And she changes back into her clothes. And she says that she's going to go visit her mom, who, by the way, that she was saying the whole time doesn't support her and isn't very friendly. But she's going to go with the mom and figure it all out.
Yep.
And Alex is like, none of that makes sense, but I'm happy to get her out of my house.
Yeah.
So,
makes sense.
Sayonara. Love and light. Be gone. And Josie does not go see her mom. She has other plans. And I'm trying to remember now, like, the way it all goes. But Alex has this whole plan with the sisters coming over. I think another sister decides to come over. And she's like, you know what? This is done. We've recorded enough. Yep. I just want to get my life back. Yeah, my husband hasn't been the best, but I love him. We're going to figure it out.
This is when she's like, oh, we're going to figure this out.
She's like, we're going to figure it out. I think she's also thinking, things could be a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
He's got problems.
After hearing that story.
Yeah, he's got problems, but he's not a terrible guy. And we didn't talk enough about the husband, Nathan, but he's just like an idiot. But you can tell that he's got problems. He's doing these benders because there's something going on there that's bothering him. But I think he's just trying to keep it away from her and away from his home. So when he's in that space. He just wants to disappear.
Yep.
But anyway, so she's got it in her mind, like, whatever it is, we're going to work through it together. I love this guy. I don't want to lose him. And so she's feeling good for the first time, hanging out with her sisters. And she keeps, like checking the watch, like he should be home soon. He promised this time, like, she's out of the house. He's good. And he's not going to disappoint me with my sisters.
Of course.
And of course he does disappoint her. And the sisters are kind of like, I'm really sorry. Maybe he'll show up in the morning like usual. And morning comes and he's not there. And then, a few hours later, he's not there. And it gets longer and longer than he usually stays away. So that's when Alex starts panicking and she contacts his work friends. And at first the work friends really doesn't say much. But I think it's nighttime now. And I think she goes to his house. And she's just, you tell me what happened. Where were you? And he basically explains to her that they were at some bar or restaurant. And a young woman approached them and just wanted to sit and drink with them. And they were happy to have a young, pretty girl sitting with them. But he swears that they did absolutely nothing. They were just drinking. But you know how Nathan is. He wanted to keep drinking all through the night.
Yep.
And
Everyone else.
We were done. And this girl said, I don't mind staying. And so we left him with her. And they're thinking he's a grown man. She's a young woman. Who's the one that we should be worried about. So they didn't have any problems leaving him. And it's at that point where we're like, what happened? And she's thinking, is he cheating on me? And then she goes back up to her bedroom and she sees, what was it, a business card?
Something.
Oh, like white powder and business card that like had fallen out of his clothing, which we find out Josie planted to kind of get the wheels turning that he was unfaithful to her. And so now Alex is having a complete meltdown. Where is he? Who is he with?
And I can't remember how and when she comes to her senses and starts like, okay, like there are ways that I can track this.
Yes.
We're in modern society.
Yes. And she's a journalist. She has connections. I
think it was even maybe like, I don't know, credit card. Like there was something she was able to pinpoint.
I can't remember now because I think his phone had died or it was turned off or something. But there was something that she could
pinpoint to a hotel.
I think it was an Uber. He called for an Uber. There's something, or the credit card. There was something, and she had asked a friend in, I think, the police, can you track this for me?
Yes, and so it leads to this hotel, which
that's not a good sign.
Nope.
And she finds the hotel, calls. And they're like, oh, thank God you called because this room has been trashed and the guy left and never paid for it.
You owe us money.
Yeah. And she's just like, oh my God, he went on a bender and trashed a hotel room. And, she's like, hey, can you just like not touch anything? I'll be there. I want to see the room. And they're like, as long as you pay.
Yeah.
And so she goes and there's a little bit of blood. Everything is disheveled.
Like destroyed.
Absolutely destroyed. And like the bed is disheveled. So now she's thinking the worst. But she is so confused. So she asks to see the CCTV and you see him and a girl. And so now things are looking like, Josie's plan is working. It makes it look like he left with some chick. But also she noticed that he gets picked up by a car. And I remember when she was saying, watching him, it's like he looked like he thought it was going to be somebody, but then he kind of stopped. But then they convinced him to get back in. And she's just thinking, who is in that car?
Yep.
And then do you remember what happens after that?
I don't know.
Okay. So one thing I really loved about this book, I told you about the back and forth.
It's suspense.
I know. Well, the back and forth is great because it's from the perspective of Alex, the perspective of Josie. But also they have like the screen or this like the screenplay of a Netflix documentary.
Correct.
And I freaking loved that. It was so fun because the documentary is called Birthday Twins or something like that. Or you're my birthday twin. And so every few chapters you get like a little scene of this documentary so something big happens. And like they're just alluding to something, they're alluding to some major event or some crime, basically.
They interviewed like one daughter, all these people,
or like and they'll show you, they'll just describe somebody sitting down and the way the lighting goes on their face and what they said, and you can't piece it together yet, but you keep getting all this information that something horrible happened. You don't know who and you don't know how, but at some point in the end, this documentary is going to be revealed, because then they're using like the audio transcripts from the podcast. Mm-hmm. So through that, we start learning, before we figure out what happened to her husband, we start learning more about Josie, because then they're interviewing the daughters, but then they interview the mother, and the mother, she's a piece of work. She even alludes to the fact that she was with Walter.
Oh yeah,
and her daughter stole the boyfriend from her.
A 13-year-old? Like, what kind of...
And a part of me doesn't even believe that. I think it's just the mother being the mother. We didn't really talk about her in the beginning, but she goes on and on about how she must have been an awful mother. She was a young mom, and she was really unhappy that she was a young mom, and like every chance she could, she'd say, "Oh, what I could have done if I didn't have Josie." Yeah. So you can imagine growing up how that would.
Josie definitely embellished the story, but her mom's not like mother of the year material.
Absolutely not. So through this back and forth, and then the Netflix, we learn more about that girl Brooke, and that people like her aunt was looking for her, and the last known, she was on a bus at a certain area, but the aunt didn't know that she was friends with Roxy. So she had no idea why she would be in that neighborhood. And it turns out it's Roxy's neighborhood, Josie's neighborhood. So then you start thinking, oh, they killed her. Something happened, right?
Oh, yeah.
And was it Alex keeps going back to the house? Because she's like, I know Josie said she was going to the mom's, but she went to the mom's house, and they're like, oh, Josie's not here and the mom's not here. She's on vacation. Josie hasn't been here. And she's thinking, where did this woman go? So she goes back to the house, and she's kind of looking in the window. There's no sign of life in there. She's like, well, where is Walter? Like, he would be there. And Josie says he never leaves. And she's just got this awful feeling. I don't remember at what point people go to that house. Is it her that gets the police to go there as like a wellness check? Because she's like, what is happening in that house? I can't remember now.
I can't remember, but she gets in.
Yeah, she gets it. Well, she doesn't get in. I don't think she goes in.
Someone gets in.
So the police go in. Someone goes in for like a wellness check or something. And I think it's because of her. And what they find is that Walter is, spoiler, dead. He's in the tub. He's in the tub. He's dead. And then they find the daughter, Erin. And they think she's dead too. But
she's in a closet.
She's in a closet.
This
tied
was
up.
Gross.
She's tied up in a closet. And she's been there for
days.
Over a week.
Yeah.
And
do you remember how she survived?
Yes. You want to tell them?
It was so disturbing.
So gross. She knew that she needed liquids.
She was physically out for the count. Like could not get herself out of that. I mean, she's tied up, blah, blah, blah. It was so gross. There was a mop in the closet that was wet still. And she was able to suck the liquid off the mop to stay alive. I don't know why that detail for me was like...
No, for me too.
Could not.
I read things like that and I think, if I was in that situation, I mean, you never know what you're going to do to survive. Sometimes I think I would not survive. I don't think I would even think to do that. But that's how this girl survives. And they find her. She's in a coma and she's in the hospital. And they somehow get in touch with Roxy. They find Roxy. And she's at the hospital with the sister. And so Alex is like, where the heck is your mom? Where is my husband? And through CCTV, they find out that the car that took her husband was registered to Roxy.
Correct.
And Roxy's like, I don't have a car. And they realize that the mom, Josie, has been taking money from the youngest daughter and funneling it into an account. Oh, or was the car in Erin's name, not Roxy's? I think it was in Erin's name because she was stealing her money. So it turns out Erin was always in that bedroom playing video games.
Making money.
Making a lot of money. And they say that the dad was also doing it with her. That's why he would leave.
So I guess there was one time when she was streaming, her dad came in unaware that she was streaming or something, and her followers loved him and they wanted him back. And so he would go in the bedroom at night when she was streaming and it was most popular.
Yeah.
And because her followers just wanted Walter there, his commentary and things like that. So they did it together.
Yeah, because they don't exactly say what is wrong with Erin, but
there's something.
She's nonverbal. Off. She doesn't talk, or she doesn't want to talk, so she doesn't. So having the dad there made it, I guess, more interesting. And he would commentate and react to certain things. And people just thought it was a hoot because he was so old. So that's what they were doing that whole time. What?
Her followers. Was that how they got the wellness check?
That's it. Okay, yes.
Her followers, because she wasn't streaming.
No, she was streaming, and I think they saw that like she was like pulled out or something like that, and they were like, "What the hell happened?" And so it was. That's right. I'm glad we put that together. It was the followers. The followers noticed that she kind of went off air, and that's not like her because she's 24/7 pretty much. And so it was even followers that were in America were contacting the UK because that's where the story takes place.
Yep.
And that's how they got the wellness check and found her. Okay. So anyway, Alex goes to the hospital, meets Roxy. Can I please talk to you? And then even Roxy agrees to do a recording. And basically the tale that Roxy tells is that her whole life, it was her mom, Josie, who was the controlling one, who didn't like how much they loved their dad. And that the idea that their dad molested them or even had a relationship with her friend was just so absurd that and she was like, I can't believe she would even say something like that. But she also said, I'm not surprised because she didn't want us to be close to him. And basically that like, she's just this awful person. And so now Alex is like, oh my God, we've all been bamboozled. Have you any idea where she may have taken my husband? Because clearly she's the one that has him. And Roxy's, I have no idea. And the whole time I'm just thinking, and there's something about Roxy that doesn't feel quite right to me. Like I don't quite believe her story, but I do. But at the same time, I believe nothing because the title is None of This Is True.
You're not sure who's going to be the honest one in the end.
Exactly. The only thing I'm sure of is that Alex has no idea what's going on either. Do you want to take it from there? Do you remember anything?
So, to be honest, I don't remember how they piece together where they end up.
The whole time Josie has this little dog. And I forget the breed of the dog, but it's a little dog, it's a very
it was a tip.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think she realized that being seen with that dog, people would automatically know it was her, like if word got out. So she gave her dog to this couple.
Yes.
And the couple was like, okay. And it was when they started hearing things on the news about a woman with this dog. I think a Pomchi?
Yeah, something.
A Pomchi?
So she ends up taking Nathan to the Lake District.
Yes.
Where is apparently a very popular vacation place in the summer. Sorry, holiday place in the summer and things of that nature. And I believe it's almost like our concept of like an RV park or cabin rental type thing.
That's what I was picturing.
Yeah, I was picturing like you can rent cabins, you can bring your RV, and that is where she takes Nathan. That is where the couple gets the dog. She gives the dog to them. And so another tip, they realize like this is not right. So they hightail it up to the Lake District. And that's when they finally get there. And Josie's nowhere to be found.
No, she's in the wind.
A letter? Is that what she leaves behind? She leaves behind a note or a letter of some sort.
I think she sends a letter after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And then there's Nathan.
Poor Nathan. They eventually find him.
He was just a little idiot.
No, he meant well, but he had his own demons. He did. And they find his body in the lake.
Yeah. So we're down Walter and Nathan. Daughter survives.
Yeah.
And that's not the end.
No, it's not. Because first of all, Alex is dealing with the trauma of everything that's happened. And now her husband is dead. And she knows that it's at the hands of this woman that she trusted into her house.
Yep.
I can't imagine the guilt that
Who
she's
is
feeling.
Off nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Mind you.
Yeah. And in this day and age, how is she pulling that off?
Exactly.
But what was I going to say? Oh, Josie had left a key in Alex's house. And the whole time she's wondering, what the hell does this key open or what does it go to? And I think it was through the interview with the oldest daughter that she remembers that they had something in their garage or their storage area of their building.
Yeah. It's like, there's a word for it.
Yeah.
It's like a muse house or something. Like,
yeah.
It's where, like, in London, you have, like, your road, but the house, and then, like, a back alley, something, and you have a small garage. I don't know if it's called muse. I know there are muse houses, but I don't know if that's the one with the garage.
I think that's what they call it.
It's, like, really small.
Yes.
Like you said, like almost a storage. Yeah.
So she gives that over to the police, I believe. And if I have this wrong, I'm really sorry. Don't come at me. It's been a while. I'm into 2 other books. But around about, the key unlocks the fact that this missing girl has been dead and in their storage space all the time.
It's like in the storage space, there's a car.
Yes.
And the body of Brooke is in the trunk.
In the trunk, that's right.
Or the boot, as the British say.
Yes.
Of the car.
Yes. And it smells really bad and it's just really sad. And they're just thinking like, why was she killed and what did she have to do with this?
Yep.
So then the story comes out that, I'm trying to remember it now, but the reason that Roxy left was because she found out that her mom killed Brooke.
It was this big thing.
It was like this big fight. I can't even remember.
It was like Josie... It was the whole attention thing because Josie didn't like that the daughters liked Walter more. And Brooke was around a lot.
Yes, and so when Brooke was in their home, it felt more like a family. Like she blended in. Walter loved her.
And of course, Josie's the odd one out.
Yes, and everyone's happy and they're laughing and they're having a good time. And Josie just could not have that. But I think Brooke and Roxy do have an argument about something. They do have an argument. And I think the argument was about, Roxy said that she wanted to run away regardless. And she wanted Brooke to go with her because Roxy's telling Alex that we were actually girlfriends. We were partners. Nobody knew that. But she was like the first person that I ever really cared about. And we connected and I said, let's go off together. But she was saying that Brooke was like, no, I want to finish school. I want to do this, da-da-da-da. And so that's why they had a little bit of a falling out.
And Brooke comes to the house that night.
Yeah, because she feels bad. And maybe she's like rethinking, maybe I will run away with you. And of course, nobody is there but Josie. And they get into some sort of kerfuffle. And unfortunately and sadly, Josie kills her.
So if you're counting, it's Walter, Nathan, Brooke.
Yes. And the youngest daughter saw it. And she's basically like, how could you? We got to do something about it. And Walter helps her cover it up.
Yeah.
And so now they have this big secret.
Yeah.
And what you find out is that since that moment, that's why Walter has been so like reserved and whatever you want, honey, and da-da-da.
I mean, this woman's capable of killing someone. Yes. You know that she did it. You got to watch yourself.
Yeah, and she's basically like, this would ruin the whole family. We got to hide it and this and that. But the night that she went to Alex's for dinner, this is the reason that all hell breaks loose because she basically tells him, I'm going to tell people that you did it. I'm going to bring this out to light. I'm going to let everyone know. Yep. And absolute chaos. Then again, who knows if that's actually what happened?
You walk away like...
I know. We're making it sound like this book is crazy in terms of like you don't understand a thing, but
you do. You follow everything.
It's fun.
Yes.
There's this back and forth of like what is going on, and I love that every time I thought I figured it out, another chapter would just tear all of those theories away. And I even wrote in my notes, what is going on? I don't understand. I said this book is wild.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I'm spoiling because I think it's so much more fun when you don't know what's going on and you have these different theories spinning in your head and then you finally figure it out. But I'll tell you something, at the very, very end, the very last page and last word, I went, because I still was confused.
Yeah.
I still wasn't sure. And I loved it.
Yeah.
So I guess we continue to spoil. So it's like a year later, I think.
Yeah, I think it says 16 months or something.
Okay.
Super specific. So yeah, 16 months.
Alex is dealing with picking up the pieces of losing her husband, figuring out a way to basically be a single mom. She's got this deal for Netflix now because it's been a hot story, but Josie is still in the wind. Her daughters seem to move on miraculously fast, which had me thinking there's something more here.
Family's messed up.
And then Alex gets a letter because I think Alex did an interview and she said something about Josie that Josie was not happy with. Basically, she paints, I mean, as any woman would, talking about the woman who killed her husband, she paints her in a really awful picture. So Alex sends her a letter and is basically like, I'm disappointed that you would talk about me that way. You know me better than anyone. I've told you everything. Everything was true. I didn't mean to kill Nathan. I just wanted to teach him a lesson. You deserve so much better. But I gave him too much of whatever drug it was that she gave him. And, she apologizes and just kind of alludes to the fact that maybe you'll hear from me again, but like this isn't over and I know you'll understand my point one day. And the book ends with Josie on a bus, I think, and people talking about this Netflix show. And she's just sitting there thinking, like they don't know. They don't really know what happened. And do you remember what she says?
I'm literally looking at it right now. But...
I mean, it really, it blew me the frick away. Are you
talking about right at the end?
Yes, because she starts like remembering what happened and that basically it's a new story.
Yeah.
I won't ruin that. I'll let you ruin that. I won't let you ruin that. I'll let the reader figure that out. I know we've ruined so much anyway, but there's another version of the story that pretty much paints her daughters in a very negative way.
Yeah.
And
the incident with Brooke.
Yes, the incident with Brooke and how her life has been since.
And Josie's just living her life. And here's the thing. The best part is that Netflix series or documentaries come out, and I just looked at it again. She's on the bus, and people are like, so who do you believe? The daughters? And she's just like...
Yeah.
Sitting on this bus in the Midlands, whatever that is in England, where she lives, just under the radar.
Yeah, and she's thinking about what actually happened, or in her mind, what actually happened, right? And you have this moment as the reader thinking, because again, I was suspicious of the daughters. They once the younger daughter recovered,
I was suspicious of the older daughter.
But she recovered and they were just like, all right, cool. I don't know. It didn't even seem like they were super sad about their dad being killed. It just made this... They were a wild family.
Yeah.
So they definitely have their issues. But
the only character that right. I feel comfortable being I understand them is Alex.
Yes.
That's the only one.
Yes. And so, Josie alludes to the fact that really none of this was her fault. But of course she would, right? Yeah. But it's interesting that it's her thoughts and not so much a plan. Oh, this is what I'll say. This is actually what she's thinking about.
And literally the end is, she is so sure that is the truth. So incredibly sure.
Yeah.
And I get you, you're sitting in a web of lies. Whoever is telling the truth, your life is a lie in some sort of way. Does it genuinely? And I don't know, but I think your mind gets like this. You get so caught up in it. Is it really blurred? I just think about people who are questioned by police.
Yeah.
And they start to wait, did that happen?
Yeah, did I do that?
And that's what I'm getting with her.
Yes.
Is almost she's trying to make you think it's getting to the point where there have been so many lies in her family.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, and that's where I groaned when I finished the book, because I wasn't sure oh no, was she actually telling the truth this whole time? Or damn, is this girl so messed up that she believes her own lies?
I just really, as a reader, because you're just this is a one and done book, you just know it, that I was all right, well, Josie's crazy. I was I'm content with that.
Yes. When I finished it, I mean, I couldn't put it down during all of Christmas break, which is pretty bad because my mom was visiting from Myrtle Beach and I should have spent more time with her. But I kept telling her Mom, this book is wild. This book is wild. So she's reading it now. And she texted me the other day and she had only gotten up to the part where they were going to the dinner. But her text message was, Josie scares me.
And she
So
does.
just wait. It gets more bonkers. Every paragraph, every chapter, she gets more and more bonkers.
She's just something else. But you, interestingly enough, you casted them.
Yes, I did.
And I'm curious to hear if I'm so bad with actors.
Okay.
You don't even have to like.
I don't know if anybody remembers our last episode. I am old and I don't know young actors. So
I just don't know actors, period.
The actors I have here are what would we say? They're well trained. They've been around for a little bit.
You're going to probably have to like maybe give me what they're in, hopefully. Okay. I don't know.
I feel like you should know. You should know this one. For Alex, I said Rosamund Pike.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's posh.
Yeah.
She's like put together.
Yeah.
I think she'd just be so great for that. And for her husband, I put Michael Fassbender.
Who's that?
Have you ever seen of course you probably haven't, because it's a Marvel movie. He plays Magneto in
I don't even know who that is.
Okay. He's a really handsome man.
Okay, Nathan has to be handsome, so we're good there.
He's really handsome.
I'll take your word for it.
I'll show you a picture of him. And then I even put Josie's mom, Pat, as Emma Thompson.
Really?
So I can see her being like rough and everything. Okay, Walter, even though I love this actor so much, but I think he can be anybody he wants to be.
You kind of want Walter to be lovable once like it unfolds. Like you want to feel bad for him. So I get that.
So, Gary Oldman.
Oh, okay.
Because any movie he's ever been in, he's somehow able to transform himself.
Yeah. He's not like one of those actors where they only fill a certain role.
No, he can play anything. He's brilliant. And then for Josie,
oh boy,
I put Carey Mulligan.
That sounds familiar.
She played Daisy in The Great Gatsby, the one with
Lisa. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think she'd make a good Josie. Just like there's something about her features where she's super beautiful, but like there have been roles where they've made her look kind of mousy.
Yeah,
and then,
that's
she has
Josie
that
needs to be.
But then she also has that glow up because that when she's with Alex, she does that. But I'm gonna Google a picture of Michael Fassbender because he's so handsome.
Yeah, that one.
And he has reddish hair, and so I just thought that would work. You don't recognize him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was pretty good. I was trying to, like, as I was reading, those faces were just popping up to me.
I mean, you can pitch your actors.
Oh, that's right. So last night, Kira and I went to a book talk with Lisa Jewell,
who is
at our local crime bookstore, Murder by the Books, here in Houston. And she was an absolute delight.
It just boggles my mind. I've seen Ruth Ware, Lucy Foley, and Lisa Jewell, and yes, they're all British.
I think we have a kink.
I think so. They're so sweet and just so delightful. And then they write that, the body's been in the trunk of the car, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. At one point, the moderator had asked her, like, how do you get ready to get yourself in that headspace to go into these dark places? And she was just like, I don't.
She's like, that's easy.
I don't need to get ready. She's just already there. It's just really funny. It's like the way she described getting the inspiration for this was really, really cool. It
was Walter.
Yeah.
Out of all the people.
But she already had an idea for
she did have like the podcast thing.
Somebody had approached her about, hey, can I shadow you for a year? I want to write about you. And immediately, and probably because she's been in this world, immediately she's thinking like, do you want to kill me? Like, what is this going to be like letting this man in my life?
She is the Alex. He is the Josie.
Yes. And I think like once she eventually did let this guy come into her life, but she said that like that idea kind of just ruminated with her, like, oh, having someone just come into your life, we're like interested like that, like how all the ways that could go wrong.
So she got it was the birthday twin thing she started with. She had liked the birthday twin thing for a while, she said.
Just never knew how she could use it.
And then, just walking her dog one day, and this little old man is just sitting in his window.
This poor guy has no idea.
Nothing on the wall, she said, just little boring flat or something, and he's just typing away at a computer, just like hunched over is what I pictured. And she's like, "Yep, there it is.
There's Walter. There's something
There's
going
Walter.
on in that house.
that house has got something weird."
She's like, there's a room there where there's something behind it that we don't want to know about, but I'm gonna write about it.
And there she went.
And I just loved it. But also, what stuck out to me, and this is what I've been ruminating on, when she gave a little synopsis about what the story was, and she did no spoilers, so I hope Lisa Jewell maybe never hears this.
Yeah, kudos to her.
She did no spoilers because there were people who hadn't read it yet. But when she said that Alex had that moment where she could kind of end the whole story, she goes, yeah, but of course, because it's a psychological thriller, your characters have to make bad decisions because then there's no story. And I was sitting there and I just couldn't stop thinking about, how would you write a psychological thriller about someone who makes all the right choices? Because, and hear me out, when someone wants to harm you, and they're sick, they're going to find a way, no matter how prepared or how well or how good of decisions you make.
Yeah.
And so now my twisted mind is thinking about that.
Yeah. She was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because she said that her writing process, her writing routine, really, not really a process, is start with a small detail, sit down, write. Next day, sit down, reread it, write
some more.
Sit down, reread it, write. She doesn't mess with it. She doesn't get into like nitpicking it. Someone was like, oh, when do you know the ending? And she was like, I don't. I just I write, and then, nope, that's not it. I have another chapter in me, and I have another chapter in me, and I have another chapter in me. And I just thought that was really interesting because she doesn't write with a goal in mind or with an end in mind. And I almost feel like
her books are so good. It just seems.
I wonder if that's how she does the plot twist, the ending maybe. So well, is because
she's not tied to anything.
Yeah, she's not working to that and forcing things to get to that ending. It just naturally comes onto the page.
Yeah, and it's probably more fun that way. I mean, I'm sure it's, when you have deadlines and, you know, and she's at a point now where she's always going to have a deadline. But I have to say, as someone who, since they were really little, always wanted to write something but never knew what to write.
She was inspiring.
Yeah, she really was inspiring because I think growing up, the writers that I was taught about or had the pleasure to hear them talk, they always had like a very specific process and everything seemed very academic. And, and you have to have gone to the
motifs and this.
And you have to have gone to the best colleges and had your work reviewed by scholars. And she's like, I dropped out at 16. I didn't go to college. And I'm just like,
the story of how she quote unquote became a writer was amazing to me. I was telling my mom this today. She goes on this trip with her boyfriend after getting out of a bad marriage. There's
getting fired.
Gets fired from her secretarial job.
Do you remember how she pronounced secretary? Because I tried to remember it because it was just so beautiful. I could have heard her say
everything's beautiful.
No, I can't do it, but it was wonderful. I'm sorry.
They go on this trip. She gets drunk. Another significant other is drunk on the trip. And she tells his significant other, I just finished this book. It was amazing. And I want to do that. I could do something like that.
I wish I could write like that.
And the other drunk one's like, you can write. You can do it, girl. And then she's like, write 3 chapters and I will buy you dinner wherever you want. And so she does. And she meets her. They have dinner. Her friend tells her it's fantastic. She sends it off to agents and all but one pick it up. And she said that was the first 3 chapters of her book, first book.
That's crazy. But then also, I mean, it's definitely inspiring, but she clearly had a talent maybe that she didn't even realize she had because she's good at it. She's good at her writing. She's good at her descriptions. She's great. So, I mean, I guess maybe anybody could try, but I don't know if you have the success that she has. But it definitely was inspiring, and it's got some wheels turning in my own head.
So her books are great. If you've read Lisa Jewell, she did say, what adaptation were they making? I was about to say what it was. And
it's
I forgot.
This one, but then there was another one.
There was another one.
I can't remember.
And it wasn't.
But it was like she said for the other
it
one.
wasn't The Family Remains.
I can't remember it now, but somebody had already written a screenplay. She didn't read it. She didn't read that one because it was by someone I can't remember who that was now, that she admired. So she's like, I don't feel I'm comfortable with that. But she did read this screenplay for this.
She was not happy.
And she was not happy. She says it needs to be reworked, but she is confident that it'll get there. But it's kind of like it's just in the stage right now where the scripts need to be finalized. And then once they're finalized, they need to be shopped around to actors. And then, once they get a big actor attached to it, that's when they'll get their funding and move forward. So who knows how long it'll take. But man, this will make a great, if they do it right, this will make a great movie.
Oh, she said the irony is Netflix the one that picked it up.
Yeah. I mean, how could they not?
God, now I can't remember what the other book was. I know it wasn't The Family Remains. I'm like picturing my bookshelf right now. I know it wasn't The Third Wife.
Have a list here? Okay. The Family Remains, The Night She Disappeared, Invisible Girl, The Family Upstairs?
No, because that's a sequel to The Family Remains.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. The Family Remains is a sequel to Family Upstairs.
Okay. Watching You, Then She Was Gone, I Found You, The Girls in the Garden, The Third Wife, The House We Grew Up In, Before I Met You, The Making of Us, After Party, The Truth About Melody Brown.
Those are early ones.
31 Dream Street, A Friend of the Family, Vincent Joy, One Hit Wonder, 30 Nothing, Ralph's Party.
Oh, man. It must have been
something else.
Then She Was Gone, or it wasn't The Girls in the Garden. Wow, was it Then She Was Gone?
I honestly can't remember.
I can't remember either.
I was excited because she was talking about a book that's coming out this summer.
Yeah.
Was it Don't Let Him In?
Yeah, Don't Let Him In.
Don't Let Him In. So I'm really, really excited for that. I think it comes out in the end of June. So
yeah. But that's None of This Is True, which who knows if our retelling was true.
I know.
It was a little shoddy in some areas.
I'm a little worried that this retelling was a little all over the place. But honestly, that's how the book was.
It really was.
In a fun and engaging way. Yes. It was all over the place. It really had you like, whoa, what's happening? Got to read another chapter. Got to read another chapter. So I loved this book so much. And I really loved getting to see her talk a little bit about the book and then about her process. And she was just really cool, and she seemed so down to earth and inspiring and just nice to see.
So next, if you're not a mystery person, you haven't made it this far through because you don't care to listen. But for those of you that are listening, next we're going back to Akatar, and we're going to do Akamath, the Court of Mist and Fury.
Yes.
So that will be the next one, which will be a doozy because, whoa, there's a lot.
I'm reading the third book right now.
Akawar.
But so far, I enjoyed the first one a lot. But so far, the second book has my heart.
It's always.
So we'll see.
And then if you're not into fantasy, then come back after that one.
And then we're going to do The Manor House?
The Manor House. By Jillian?
I'm not even going to try. I wasn't sure if it was Gilly.
Or you're
Jilly.
Right. Ooh.
Thinking it could be Gilly or it could be Jilly. Don't know. Gilly. Probably should have looked that up.
You're right. I don't know.
But yeah, that, and then we'll go back to Feyre.
We'll be back.
We'll just keep bouncing around. But somebody did say to you that we do all chick books.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't help it that the chick books are so good.
One of my guy friends did comment that, are these all going to be girl books? And I was like, what do you... I'm not reading nonfiction, so...
One day, I'll get her.
We'll see.
I'll get her. What if it's like true crime nonfiction?
Maybe.
Literary nonfiction.
As long as it's not like it's about something that happened somewhere too close to home and things like that.
Gotcha. But what if it's like a long, long time ago?
Maybe. We'll think about it.
Because remember, there were serial killers a long, long time ago, and they don't exist now.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll
take suggestions. I'm not guaranteeing.
We're open. We're open for suggestions, but
no promises.
We like the thrillers, the mysteries, and the fantasy.
That's that.
Well, thank you for joining us for episode number 3. Please join us for the next one. Share, subscribe, rate, tell your friends. Rate, review, subscribe. That's what the kids say.
Yeah, okay.